Are we ready to get started?
We are.
Have you had your birthday cake, Joseph?
Yes, sir.
How many slices? 50?
Three.
Okay, all right, 3. Okay, all right. The Lord be with you.
Also with you.
Let us pray this prayer that comes from this. There are dozens of these books. Holy Island Prayer Book is what this is called. But compilations of prayers that have come from Lindisfarne and from Iona. And this is one that I've used a number of times. And this is for the Thursday compilation of prayers about community. May we bear the marks of the friendship of God, God above us, God beside us, God beneath us, Trinity of love. Father, cherish us. Son, cherish us. Spirit, cherish us. 3, all kindly. Creator, make us holy. Savior, make us holy. Spirit, make us holy. 3, all holy. Make us aware, dear Lord, of the eye that beholds us, the hand that holds us, the heart that loves us, the presence that enfolds us. Amen.
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 Round 3. Y'all are hardy. I'll say that for you. Linda, would you mind getting the light back there while you're passing through? There we go. Perfect. I'm trying to keep an eye on. Just so far, we haven't had anyone join us Zoom yet, but it's set up there for in case anybody would like to. The thistle, and Carol, you can certainly help me with this. This is third hand. Emily and Carolina were told this by the tour guide, how the thistle got to be Scotland's flower.
I don't know.
Well, you'll like this. He said it was during one of the Jacobite rebellions that had come up, and there was an encampment of Scots who were sleeping at night, and the English were going to surprise them, and they decided they were going to sneak up around them, and they took off their shoes to make it extra quiet, and one of them stepped on the thistle and yelled, and then woke and alerted the Scots, and Scots had the day. And therefore, thistle, which I like, the sense of humor that I found was always there. I think I'm going to have us, this is where we left off, isn't it, after the games?
Yes. Well, you were in last, yeah.
Yeah, in Balmaha.
Oh, no, you're in Balmaha.
Yes. And so listen, I'm still with the family, right? And we're on our way to Dalmunsey Castle here. And I could not begin to tell you the road. I do know this is the road that I got to Perth, and then from here, all kinds of little windings that were going back into Dalmunsey Castle. And so we got into Jamie McKenzie Fraser.
Oh, yeah.
And as I'm driving along, white-knuckling it along the way, right? And we're going on the windy path, I see out of the corner of my eye a sign that says Clan McThomas. Now, if you remember last time, I'd done a little research, and I have no idea if we are personally part of this clan or not. But Combses are among the list here, if you kind of look over here, right? And so I kind of caught that out of the corner of my eye. I thought, huh, and almost drove off the road, but I kept on going. And it was kind of early in the morning, so we went on to the castle, and we dropped off our bags. I dropped off Bert and the rest of the bags there. It was way too early, and so they told us a good place to have some lunch. And then Emily and Carolina had found a gin distillery. I'm like, kiddos.
Yeah.
We are in Scotland, but okay, they wanted to find a gin distillery, so we found a really cute one called Percy, and so we went and they had some gin tasting. I'm not a gin drinker, but they have a whole line of dog ones. They've got the Labrador ones, and they've got Dachshund and Spaniels, and they all have a different kind of flavor. And so we spent a little time there. They had their tastings, and then we headed back, and this time we were on the lookout for this, and found this Clan McThomas sign, and it turns out that this is the Coxton, which is well renowned in the region there. Now here we are, and I could have picked any castle, I guess, for us to try to stay, but we ended up in this one here in Glenshee, and it turns out that this is the site where Big Tommy Moore slaughtered 8 of the Earl of Haddle's men, and during the 16th century, it turned out that the earls were going through collecting their what was owed to them by the people there for their protection, and came across a widow who had 7 hens and a rooster, and they were supposed to get 1 hen, and they took them all, right? So she went and told Big Tommy. He went, confronted them, and there's a stone here commemorating the slaughtering with the beheading, and all this goes into great detail about all of the. This sounds like my family, so I'm pretty sure. There's the coxswain right there, and the insignia here. And so Emily and I had a little reenactment of the battle. This is NYU, right? Paying off. And then we went on to Dalhousie Castle. This is from the website. I was not flying, but this is they've had a structure here. I forget, back to the 10th century or so, and obviously it's been renovated over the course of time and become a residential place and place for visitors to stay. I'm sorry, what was it?
I said, look at all the chimneys.
Yeah, right. Who's gonna clean
Wasn't
those?
any central heating.
I'm not sure how the festival thing has gotten onto some of my slides, but it has, and I didn't discover that one, so I apologize. It looks like a
Were
stamp.
those, were there ghosts in the castle? Those people who were slaughtered?
You're right, yes. So here it is. This was our luxury thing that we had done. This is our splurge, and so we stayed overnight here in Dalhousie, and then we went on down to Edinburgh. But first, some pigs in the kilt,
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
I had early in the morning, but the laird in the castle, right? So there I am. Wearing the jumper that I got, the sweater that I got while I was in Inverness. And back there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You need to send that photo to me.
Oh, I don't think so. So on down to Edinburgh. Now this is probably the 4th time that we've been to Edinburgh. So we didn't do a lot of the touristy things. In fact, kind of just did our own kind of scattered things, and I had to drop off the car, which was its own adventure. And Emily and Carolina went and had lunch in some places that some influencers eat. This is the age, right? So they're off in the old city part, and I met them there. And Jennifer was getting some rest that she really needed. So just a few shots that I took along the way here. Edinburgh Castle.
Yeah.
I believe this is the Divinity School, maybe as part of the college, the university there. And I took a little stroll inside St. John's Scottish Episcopal Church, which was a
I was a
lovely place.
bridesmaid there.
Is that right? You were a bridesmaid there. Okay.
Really? Yeah, kind of like about the half of us were bridesmaids.
Yeah, it's a beautiful
That
church, and
It's a beautiful church.
yeah, yes.
Long time.
Scotch welcomes you, right? Yeah. Felt right at home. Then the next day we did the Outlander tour. So this is Jennifer's bucket list thing that she really wanted to do, and so we got on the tour early and went to, I guess it was maybe 4 or 5 different spots. Who's watched the series? I can't read. Okay, so I've got some backup here, so you can help me because I have not. But this is Midhope Castle, which is our first stop that we went. Lallybrook, which is the home of Jamie. Is that the name
Jamie
of?
Fraser.
Okay,
Yeah.
Jamie Fraser. Right. So Jamie
Or the
Mackenzie Fraser
Fraser-
is not
the
only
Fraser
just
clan or whatever.
yeah, right. So it is built in 1458. You're not allowed in it. You really aren't supposed to get that close to it. But photo ops and what have you. And evidently a lot happens here in the filming around the gate area. So I got Jennifer. She was so happy able to do all this. Tried looking in some windows. And then we went on to Blackness Castle, and this is built also in the 15th century, and it's shaped like a ship. It's aground. If you are out in the water and you look over, you can see the bow. It's pointed like the bow of a ship here, and obviously it's seen its action over the course of time. I found this to be a very interesting place to be, and just kind of wandering around.
Yeah.
I love stone structures, so. Are you seeing okay?
I can see you, yeah, I can see around you.
And then we went to Linlithgow Palace, which is the pleasure palace of James I. But it's many structures are. It's under construction, and it was raining, and it was a long walk. So I went by myself just to try to get pictures of what I thought maybe where filming might have happened, And so I don't know if I did or not, but and we had a little. It was pretty there. It was very pretty there. We had our lunch, and then went on to Dune Castle. This is what Jennifer was kind of saving herself for. This has got these spiral staircases that go up. It must have been maybe 3 or 4 that we went. She was a trooper. She did all of it.
Yeah.
So Dune Castle is not only was Outlander filmed there, but Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And if you know Game of Thrones in Winterfell, some of the Winterfell scenes inside were created in this set. And so, but you can almost imagine, King Arthur in the Monty Python, on his stick horse, with the coconuts next to him, coming up here, and they approach 7 castles in that movie. 6 of them are filmed here. They're just different angles. They go to a different side of it. They pretend it's a different castle. Very Monty Python. That's I think the kitchen area in there. This is the Great Hall. This is again in Monty Python, where the Knights of the Round Table do their song and their dance. It was really a fascinating place, though, just to visit Blackness. Excuse me, that was Dune Castle. And then finally we went to Kilros, which Kilros, okay, which is I think preserved is a preserved 16th century village, and there's again. I went by myself. Jennifer was done after Dune Castle, but I was trying to find, I think, what's her name in the show?
Oh, I can't remember. Claire.
Claire. Her garden. There's a garden and so I went up along a road that's called Hag's Way, I think it is, and
Claire should complain.
Right.
And then I just randomly found these stones on each step, kind of reminding me a little bit of a cairn. So that was the end of that day, and then the next day they flew out, and I went on down to Melrose to begin the St. Cuthbert's Way, and King Charles was arriving to be welcomed into Scotland. Well, you can imagine how that was going to go.
Yeah.
And I got out early. I did not want to get into whatever mess that might have been, so I left on a train at about 6 in the morning. So yeah. So St. Cuthbert's Way begins here in Melrose, and there are 7 legs to this. The way that I did it, you can do it in different kinds of ways. There are some people who are champion walkers who can do it, 3 or 4 days. But I did it broken out like this one from Melrose to St. Boswell's, down to I stayed overnight in Jedburgh, but Hairston's is where the trail is, the way goes itself. Then on to Moorbattle and Kirkyeddam, on to Wooler and Finnick, and then on to Holy Island. It's technically 65 miles. For me, maybe 75 miles. There's some getting lost early on here, and I'll tell you about St. Boswell when I get to that place.
You got lost.
Yeah, I got. It's shocking, I know. Just a quick reminder about St. Cuthbert. He was a monk. He was an abbot. He was a bishop in the mid-7th century. Became a hermit at the very end of his life. His ministry, he was an abbot and monk at Melrose, and then he was elected bishop, made bishop on Holy Island, on Lindisfarne. That lasted about 2 years. And he's like, I'm done with this. Yeah. And then he became a hermit and lived largely on Inner Farn, which is just off of away from Lindisfarne. So, I arrived in Melrose. I arrived there really early, I arrived at the B&B at around 9 in the morning, and they're like, "I'll see you at 4." And so I spent the day at Melrose, which was just fine. I dropped off Bert, and me and Ernie went around. the pillars with the unicorns on it. Is there a? I don't know if you happen to know a story. Maybe knows a story. I found these in a lot of the towns where I visited.
Well, some of the flags, isn't it? Beautiful?
Yeah. Okay. Well, then maybe it's related to that then. Yeah. But Melrose is lovely, and I spent most of my day here at Melrose Abbey, which was built at the end of the 12th century. It was where St. Cuthbert was a novice, and then he was an abbot later on. A number of kings are buried here, and the heart of Robert the Bruce is buried up here.
Just the heart.
well.
His heart?
Bless his heart.
Just
Just his heart, yeah. And they actually found it. They dug it up, and they've done their little studies. They said, yeah, it's a human heart.
Yeah.
And then they put it back in the ground. So, and embalmed. I was not able to go into the Abbey. This is the story for almost everywhere I went except for one place. So I reached my phone and around the gate and prayed that I didn't drop my phone on the other side of the gate, under the fencing, and just took some pictures along the way. Just a beautiful structure, beautiful place, lovely grounds. I just did a lot of reading while I was kind of waiting for the B&B to, do their thing. And
Isn't that all renovation on the right, is it?
yes.
Yeah.
Right, there are different, I don't have them, but different gargoyles and different figures along here. There's a pig playing the pipes. I never could find it. And I don't know if I was looking in the right, so I don't have a picture of that. Let's see. But yeah, this is more of the grounds, and I just spent some time along here. And then the big start, right, off from Melrose to St. Boswell, 9 miles, let's call it roughly, 2 miles of getting lost. And at the start, I couldn't even find the entrance. Now, if anyone is hikers, sometimes finding the trailhead is the hardest part of the hike.
Yeah.
That was my day. And there was a guy that was maybe 35 or 40 who had 2 young daughters, and they were all backpacked up. They were all ready to do camping. They're going to camp along the way. And so I told him, I know we're looking for a path that goes down, and then there's 133 wooden steps going up, and he's like covering the daughter's ears, like, you didn't hear that. But we got some directions and found it, and here are the 133 steps from the top, looking down here. And it is an ascent. This does not do justice. But on the way out of Melrose, heading towards the Eildon Hills, which are 3 hills, and I'll get a picture here. This is a bench that I came across early on. I had a little rest there, but it's dedicated to a man. I think his name is Jim Henderson, who does a lot of walking, evidently, in Scotland. And so you've carved Scotland here. You've got some boots. You've got some walking poles, and then my walking stick I put there. And I just thought that was really interesting. There's some just interesting things I found along this particular day. Gaining a little height here. Here's Melrose, and here's the Abbey down below. And this is the Eildon Hills. This is Eildon Mid. There is Eildon North over here, Eildon Mid, and then Eildon Wester on the other side of this. And the way goes between these. And you have the option of going to the top, but I got to, right? It's right there. And I encountered a guy coming down as I was right up here near the crest of this. And he had this package with him. He said, "Are you going to the Lake Country?" Now, the Lake Country is on the other side of England. No, I'm not one of those walkers. Yeah. And he's like, "Oh, I've got ashes of somebody really near and dear to me, and they wanted to have their ashes spread in the Lake Country. And could you carry them with you?" I'm like, "Well, I'm not going to go."
Yeah.
Right? No. I'm like thinking to myself, this is really kind of. So he continues on his way down along here. I don't know what I was supposed to be carrying for him, but I was not going to do that. Anyway,
That's very pretty.
I kept on going up here, and again, you can see more of Melrose from above, and there's the Eildon Mid that I.
Is that the path you walked up on the right?
The one on the right is what I took. This one kind of goes along up here, but this looked a little steeper.
Yeah.
And even a little rockier. This is the one I went on. This was the good way, right?
Lordy, wow.
And again, you don't really get the sense of how steep this is. and I'm walking on there thinking, Bill, this is day one.
Yeah.
Your ankles, Al, you need to be thinking about that. But when and then this is Eildon North to the left of us as we're kind of looking here. I'm going up this way over here, and there are all kinds of paths everywhere. This is how I got lost, because there's a lot of choices that you get to make along the way. And at the very top, I'm not sure what this structure is. It was supporting something, it looks like. And then there's a little table at the very top. And on that, this does not show it very well, but there is a map with an outline of with a compass. So kind of whatever direction you're looking in, it kind of lets you know. They call it a geographical
How many
indicator.
people did you encounter as you were walking?
Not many.
Not many.
This day I found him. That's about the only person that I encountered that day.
Really?
Really?
Yeah. There are some days, and you'll see, I found some other folks along the way as I went.
So did people know where you were going? Did anybody know where you were headed? I mean, say you had
Yes.
fallen down or something, they would know where to look for you.
Right. Let me just. I was doing a 360 here. That was Eildon North, and then to the south here, and you see a line of rain.
Yeah.
Right here. Right. It's going along here. There's Eildon Wester.
Wow.
It's
This is the view, though.
Is that the
Wow.
wind? Is that the
That was the
wind?
wind.
That's the wind. Yes.
Wow.
Oops. I'm sorry. Well, so to answer your question, the whole thing is organized by MAC Adventures, and there are a number of groups that do this, and they make all the accommodations for you. They move your luggage. So
Yeah.
Bert had somebody move him every day,
That's huge.
So I was Bert free for much of the time.
Yeah.
Although I got to carry Bert up the steps. Everyone looked at that and they said, sometimes I take the luggage up and not yours. So at the end of the 13 miles, up we go. And they knew where I was. And I also let Jennifer know, and I kept my my data on the phone so that I was, and much better than the reception I get here.
Really?
Yeah, right. So, but I came on down the other side here, and then walking along the Eildon Hills a bit, and this is some paths along through the
There's
woods.
a marking there. That
There's a
tells
marking
you
there?
That you're on the right track.
This is the St. Cuthbert Cross, and the little arrows that help kind of show us along the way. This is about the point, though, I got lost. I kept on going straight when I was supposed to take a left, and I never did see a signpost when I backtracked on that. But I went about a mile and got around to that Eildon Wester, and I looked up and I thought, well, that's not right.
Yeah.
I've done something wrong here. And I even had a guidebook. But this is kind of a typical path here along the way that you see right here and crossing, and then you can kind of almost make out the way along next to the stand of trees
Yeah.
here. And this, just beautiful. And there are the Eildons from the other side, and some of my friends. I have got a lot of these friends along with me along the way here, lots of cows and sheep. Then I came across this, which is this, you can see a chair leg,
Yeah.
see a chair back along here, and people have just stuck sticks in there, and yeah. So I took this picture, and I sent it to Bishop Wright and told him we've got a new bishop's chair for him. He's been working hard here, waiting for his next visit, and then continued on my way. There was a sign, one of these posts here, and someone had put a feather in the top and balanced some rocks on top of that. And it was just I call it a liminal day. I think the language we might say is magical, but liminal might be our Christian way of speaking of this, where the spiritual and the earthly are bound together, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful day.
Father Bill,
Mm-hmm.
are there two different arrows?
Yeah. So there's two different trails. Yeah.
Well, which one are you supposed to follow?
Yeah, what-
I'm following this one. I'm following this one. This is the local. I forget what they call
Like
it.
an
Probably
awesome
I think it's the Eildon.
An arrow going left and an arrow going right.
Yeah. So this is.
Well, Monty Python would be right at home.
Oh,
here.
right. This explains a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Free-range children and animals.
Free-range children.
Yeah. Now this is the Buccleuch. Is that Buccleuch Arms Hotel, and this is where I stayed. Now, when I got to St. Boswell, I'm like, oh good, I'm here, you know?
Yeah.
Look at my app and I've gone 9 miles. I'm like, okay, this is, but then I got lost and what have you. And I looked to see where the hotel is, and it's not, I find it's like 1.5 miles away. I'm like,
Oh.
what terrible organization is this, you know? Mac Adventures has failed me, you know? I'm not going to do that. And so I'm like standing near, not too far from a bus stop.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a busy road along there. I said, well, I'll just catch the bus out this way. And so I get on the bus and do my little card thing and sweet talk the driver into dropping me off near the Bookloo Arms. And I realized, actually, that's St. Boswell. And where I was St. Boswell, Newton.
Oh.
And so I hadn't gone far enough. I bus rode some of St. Cuthbert's Way.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But and I'm really sad that Jenny is not here because I looked around St. Boswell that evening. Can you believe it?
Oh, look at that. Oh, my friend.
I've been holding that for her. I'll send that on
I
to
sent her a
her.
picture of that.
But yes, just
Jenny Moore's Road.
Jenny Moore's Road. So
That's funny.
we gotta get a home there. So the next day, my day of rest, I went back. I was going to go back, go see Dryborough Abbey anyway, and so I walked back to close to where I had caught the bus and walked along the River Tweed. And this was actually Dryborough was a place where I could actually walk around and built again. All these were built around the 12th century. They became in this state, especially after the Reformation. Many of these, this was burned and destroyed a number of times, and then all the monks were removed after the Reformation, and stones were taken from them to build other things. And this is kind of how things ended up. It's also the burial site of Sir Walter Scott. And so I spent a few hours here, just kind of wandering around and it's, you know, there are people here checking it all out. Really, again, a very beautiful setting, a place just to sit and pray and just. This is the burial site of Sir Walter Scott, who was right here. Lieutenant Colonel Sir Walter Scott of Abbotsford, 2nd Baronet. He was 45 years old when he was lost at sea. I didn't realize he was that young. So heading on back, and so the next day going from St. Boswell to Hairston's, and then Hairston's is just a little crossroad, and there's a welcoming center, there's a visitor center, lovely visitor center there, and then I caught a cab. This is part of it. The St. Cuthbert's Way does not go to Jedburgh, which is a much larger place, and this is where the lodging was. And so these are my friends. At the very beginning, this is what I saw. Now I walked back to where I had left the day before, and so I added 2 more miles onto my day because I thought, I am here, I am walking this way. I came all the way to walk this way. I'm not going to bus ride part of it, you know. And so,
You're getting a free ride.
so I walked along a golf course for about 1 mile or so, St. Cuthbert's Way. So I'm just like stopping around the putting, you know, and there's golfers right off to the side here. It was a busy little day there, but then got on the way. This is very, very pastoral. There's a lot of farming country that I was walking through and hiking through. Lots of fields of grain and lots of cows. This says, "Be aware, cows and calves ahead. Never get between that calf and his mother." So I, kindly tipped my hat along the way here to them as we went along the way. They were not happy with me, but this is typical of the pathway and the markings of it, both through the fields and then along inside from time to time into the woods.
So you took snacks with you in your
Yes, I did.
backpack,
And
because there's nowhere to eat.
each of the bed and breakfast offer a to-go lunch, which I took, and so I always had my lunch with me, and I had breakfast bars, and I had protein loaded, And then here came along Deer Street, which is a Roman road. It goes back to the 1st century, I think, and and there's no real artifacts that they found along here to say that it's a Roman road, but they know it's a Roman road because it's really straight.
Oh.
And most of St. Cuthbert's Way is a windy kind of a thing where the the cattle and the sheep kind of go. And this was and hard on the feet. There's some kind of stone up underneath this, and my feet were tired after these days. It goes over 200 miles, roughly from Edinburgh to York. But again, lovely. Now along the way, I went up a hill here, and at the very top of it was Lilliard's Stone, and this is associated with Ancram Moor, which was a battle when King Henry VIII was having what they called the rough wooing, when he wanted to have in marriage have Scotland and England together, and it wasn't going well, and so he decided that he would just start, going and raiding along the borders, try to kind of force Scotland to see his way about this. And so the Fair Maiden Lilliard this is legend only. This is actually probably a Chevy Chase, a battle that happened a couple centuries earlier. But her husband was said to be killed in the battle, and so she took up his arms, and this is the commemoration here for her. Fair Maiden Lilliard lies under this stain. Little was her stature, but great her fame. On the English loons she laid many thumps, and when her legs were off, she fought upon her stump. I thought, does it get more Scottish than that? I don't know.
It's just a flesh wound.
It's just a flesh, exactly. The Black Knight and the Monty Python. Right. Oh dear. And then on the way, some more here. Just some beautiful scenery that I passed through on my way to.
They're celebrating.
Well, right. So again, we've got the pillar with the unicorn, and they're celebrating. They're having I'm blanking on the name here. The Reevings. They're having each of the little towns here will have kind of these reeving celebrations, and reavers were families, were clans, and if I got the history right, it was maybe during the 15th, 16th, 17th century where England and Scotland said, we're going to stop fighting over the borders. It's not really working out very well for either one of us. We're just going to ignore the borders. And it became just like this lawlessness, and there was a lot of raids that went back and forth, and a lot of bad things happened. And but they kind of commemorate this in these little towns, and they have these reenactments, right? And people dress up. And so I got to Jedburgh, and I could not get a place to eat. There were no reservations. It was all just packed with people. And I found an Indian restaurant, which was fairly empty, and so I tried my hand at Indian food, and we were fine with that. So I spent the day in Jedburgh again.
Vaudeville.
Yes.
I just Googled the unicorn is the national animal of
Okay.
Scotland.
Okay. All right. I thought the stag was.
Well, that's what Google says.
Okay. All right. Well, there's a story about stag too, killing one of the English kings. So that was but this is called the Mary Queen of Scots Visitor Center. She stayed for a couple weeks in this house, and it's called the Mary Queen of Scots house. And so I did a little tour of that, and it happened right before she went into exile. So this is a kind of a pivotal moment. Beautiful and a tremendous history given for her and her very sad life. And then I went on to Jedburgh Abbey after that. Again, early 12th century, fencing along here, so you really could not get that close. We were kind of able to be in this area here, and that was about it. But again, a very pretty place, a very, very quiet and spiritual place to visit. And then this kind of captured, there's a little tunnel that goes under the jet water and connecting one side to the other, and there's a sort of starry night kind of with the fish, and I just thought that was it was a fun city to be in. So I caught the cab back to Hairston, and then head on to Moorbattle, and everything kind of changes here. I start going through more stands of Scottish pines, and the scenery changes a bit. Every day called for like 50-60% chance of rain, some days hail, you know. It didn't happen. I did not, I had all this rain gear ready to go, you know, and then every day, there's one point where I had to put on the rain pants, and then I really probably didn't even need that. You know,
Wow.
it stopped as quickly as it started. And this is what we used to call a swinging bridge in Kentucky, you know, suspension bridge. And here is the Jedwaters. And here's kind of the path, not quite so easy to see along the way here. And when you're walking this, you can feel where 1,500 years of pilgrims have kind of worn the ground. It's a little bit deeper. It's a little hard to kind of walk along in that. Your knees get like something like this. But it is a way of kind of marking the way along here. More of my friends. I was never alone.
Surprised you didn't see more sheep.
I saw a lot of sheep too,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, I'm still like cows, so.
Right. And the Yieldens are still with me. And now you can start to see we're starting to do a little hill climbing here. We're not quite into Cheviots yet, but we're getting to hillier country. But just beautiful. And the wind was constant, and the grain and the wheat, and just gorgeous.
And not many people along the way.
And yeah.
You see
Again,
any
these,
wild animals or just
I did not
cows?
see wild animals. No, I just domestic animals along the way. So, and these are Scotch pines. They lose their lower branches with no sunlight. And it felt like I was in a cathedral. It really was just
Oh, it looks like it.
amazing.
Yeah,
I just go wander off. The path is back that way, Bill, so don't go too far. Again, this is the way.
Oh, wow.
And the stone wall was
They don't
helpful.
maintain
How
it,
do you
they?
find that?
You just feel it with your feet, you know. And I had John Fox's the wet walking stick that he gave me. Thank God I had that. There's several places. This is one of them. And the midges weren't too bad because it was so windy. And so I had my spray, which was like 200 DEET or something. I forget what it was. It felt lethal, you know. But it was not
against midges.
not bugged too much by them here. And then there are these stiles that you cross along the stone wall here. And that's my attempt at artistic. And there's just more of this all along, just kind of these fields next to these forests. Every now and then I would get inside. This is Cessford Castle. It was the embattlement really for the Kerr family, one of the largest and most powerful families during the Revering period here. And I sent this picture, of course, to Jennifer. Said we got to fix her upper. You know, I keep on sending her pictures of the retirement home that we're going to go to in Scotland. You know, and so. And then along this, I include this at this particular point, but all along the way, I noticed this at day one, that I would see these black with a little bit of white on them feathers on the right-hand side of the way, and maybe scattered about every 2 miles or so. And at first I thought, oh, random feather. And I'm thinking, I'm finding these in places where there are no crows. There is nothing, you know, somebody's putting these down along the way. And I found these all along the way, almost to Lindisfarne. At Finnick, I stopped seeing them. But I kind of felt like that was a little, I don't know. It's
Kind
like,
of markers?
I guess so. Or
Red
somebody just
ones?
said, just like a little support, like, you know, I'm not alone on this. So I end up in Moorbattle, which is again a small little place, and there's a bus that takes one route, large route, and goes to Kelso, which is a larger city nearby, and then you catch it again at the end of the day. So I had one shot at that, and so I got on the bus and went to Kelso and wandered around. I actually went to church in Kelso Sunday morning, and that was lovely. About 12 people there, but they were very, very welcoming. And then this is the Church of Scotland church, almost a landmark. And then as I'm wandering around, I see these signs for Flores Castle. I don't know what Flores Castle is, but I start following the signs. And this was built not as really as a castle. It kind of looks that way, but never served as a castle or functioned as one. It really is more of an estate, and it's designated as the oldest castle in Great Britain with a permanent residence of royalty there. And so it's the home of the third.
My cousin managed that estate
You're kidding?
years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, like
Wow.
that's all the like the river and the management
Yeah,
of,
oh,
the,
yes.
of the property.
It's massive.
It's a huge estate.
It is. Yes. Yes. I got a few
And they had a
pictures of
home
that.
on the, not in the castle, but they had a lovely home.
Well,
in
you'll
the grounds.
you'll see you'll see the guard. I did not pay the £25 to do the tour inside, but I did decide I'd just kind of wander along in the garden
Swimming
outside, and that was more my speed and my yeah. But so this is how I found it. I'm just like walking along. And there's the entrance for it, and I don't know what this is all about. This is a shield. I got these gloves. I'm not sure what they're wearing. I'm really curious about that. But here are these grounds you're talking about. I mean, it's just a massive
Very
estate.
wealthy, very wealthy piece of land.
Yes. And so I stuck to the gardens, and they have this Millennium parterre, which is this commemorating 1900, the year 1900. So Queen Victoria, and then there's in the shape of an M also there for the Millennium. And this is just paved into these grounds here, and this is my attempt of a panoramic shot with my camera here to try to capture that all. It looks like someone's praying to Mecca here, or they've lost their contact. I'm not sure. And then there are the tapestry gardens, which just lovely, just beautiful. Had a great time wandering around in there. Then I went and visited some other. Well, here's the Kelso North Parish Church. Here is a secularized building, right? There's a veterinarian in here. There's a I forget what other businesses are in there. And then this is right next to where I was staying in Moorbattle. And so it's kind of the church in different states there when I visited. So I went from Moorbattle then on to Kirkyettam. This is probably my very favorite day of this. And by this time I'm loopy. That's what I am. I really and I'll try to talk a little bit about this maybe towards the end of the presentation here. But I start off this day along a paved road. More paved roads. Now the paved roads are going just along St. Cuthbert's Way. So it just is kind of the coinciding of that. But before long, I'm off into the woods here and heading up. We are now in the Cheviot Hills, and we are starting to gain a little bit of altitude. And I came across this stone structure here. I don't know if it was a farmhouse or what it was, but it had collapsed on itself here. And I took one of the stones from here, just one from one of these inner walls along the side. I had stones from Iona, smooth, round, white. And then I wanted to have something that represented the roughness, especially of the borders. And so I did take that, and I've got these on my desk upstairs, with a little statue of a hairy coo as well. and then just started to gain some more altitude here, going up in that gorgeous.
What's the highest altitude you?
I don't know. It's Grummet Slaw is what I went, and I forget how high that is. Grummet Slaw. But I don't know what the right term is. I just call them knobs. It's just these knobs of hills, unlike anything that I've been around or seen before, and just glorious just to walk through. The wind about 25 miles an hour, steady, constant, right? Just kind of in your face. Not too much, but just exhilarating. And here is again the St. Cuthbert Way emblem here, and the path heading upward. And I got a little bit lost. At one point I was supposed to go up, and I went along this fence line here, and in my loopiness, I think it's really kind of what it is. And there are two couples that I had seen at breakfast, and we exchanged just a little bit. They were both American couples. One was two women, cousins who were from the Chicago area, and then there were these other, a man and a wife. who were going along the way, and I didn't really see them for a while, and I started wondering, I wonder if I'm, doing the right thing here. And I'm kind of glad that I got a little lost because I got some really beautiful scenery. But I found also on my Mac Adventures app that there's a map that I could find out my GPS location in relationship to the I didn't know that was on there.
Yeah.
So I can see, I'm supposed to be there, but I'm actually over here. And the moors were such that I could really kind of cut across them.
Yeah.
I knew where I knew I wanted to go up, and I knew it was off to my right. And so I started cutting across. Here's the man and the woman who are coming along there. And I got back on the way, and then I ran into that couple. And we started talking. They stopped. They were having something to drink, and I stopped also, and we talked a little bit. And they're from Washington D.C. area, and I said, "Oh, I went to seminary at VTS," and she just drops her head. And the husband says, well, my wife went to VTS and she graduated from there. And I said, "Oh, really? I was there in 2003 is when I graduated. When did you graduate?" He said, "Well, which time?" And she's like, "Yeah, mid 90s or so." And then she got her doctorate there in 2011 or so. And I said, I'm an Episcopal priest in a little town called Greensboro in Georgia. Where do you have a parish? And she said, "Well, actually, I am the bishop of Washington." And I know what she was thinking, because I was thinking the same thing. Of all the places, who do I find? Another priest, What? So they had a little sip of water, and then they went on, and I knew exactly. She did not really, she went to get away.
Yeah.
So they were along ahead of me, and this is one on top of Grummett's Law, which is a high hill nearby, and you can see the buddies heading on back. There they are, heading on back down. It's just a lovely 360, and I was able to do a little centering prayer here. Nothing like anything I've ever seen. Just incredible. And that's the wind.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. And you couldn't turn anywhere without just gorgeous beauty. There the buddies are ahead of me again. It's going over a stile. And this is my life. So you saw them heading towards a little hill area, and I think it was close to that point. I was getting hungry. I thought, next rise, I'm gonna stop and have some lunch, and I do that, and there they are having their lunch. And so I invite myself to join them back to the wall, so the wind is not really bothering us too much. And we had the greatest talk, just conversation, just about them, their family, what have you. And this was our view the entire time. Then they got up and they went on ahead, and I just followed along. Then we heading largely downhill now as we are heading towards Kirkyetum.
There's your sheep.
There are plenty of sheep. Yeah. Look at this. This is the horizon level. This is,
Wow.
that was
Wow.
pretty much, yeah. It was some good climbing here. These two, this does not do justice. This was like an 18-wheeler on the other side. I watched them go back and forth just a little bit. They got themselves a little jammed, so they couldn't really just back all the way up into a real clear space. This is a passing place, but it took them a couple of minutes to get past one another here. More sheep. And then I got my way on down to Kirkyetum. And the next day after that, I had a bit of a day of rest. This is Town Yetum. It's not just right adjacent to it. You go for about a quarter mile or so. Both of them very small, and it was really kind of a day for me to just kind of catch up on some laundry, catch up on some of my journaling and what have you. This was the Kirkyetum. This is the village green. There's houses on the other side, and then that's pretty much about it. This is where I stayed, the border hotel. That evening when we got in there, we had dinner together with the buddies, and they had a great time. And they are good friends, and know a very good friend of mine who goes to Montana. And so we had a lot to talk about with Joseph and what have you. And so the next day I went to the Kirk of Yedham in Kirk Yedham. So this is the Scottish church there. Beautiful. And so, all the churches there are open during the day. They lock them at nighttime, but all the doors are always open. Always open during the daytime. And so I went from, this is the big day. This is 13 and a half miles and heading out into the preserve. There's no towns nearby. There's nothing nearby. And so if I was nervous about a day, this was it. Now the buddies had gone on. I was the only person who was like taking a day of rest in between each stage. I'm going to keep us moving along here. But again, we are very much in the hills, very hilly, very long paved roads at some points. Lots of sheep along the path. These fern-like growth along here. All you can see like these movements, these waves would be kind of coming and going, and there's a sheep underneath there.
Yeah.
Make its way along there. Because they're not happy about me being there. They want to be on the path that I am on. This is a crossing over point. This is a place where you go from Scotland to England. And this says St. Cuthbert's Way, welcome to England. St. Cuthbert's Way, welcome to Scotland. And I use these rocks here to kind of get my camera, stuck up there. And I can give myself a selfie there. One of my few selfies that I did along the way. And then continued on. There was another couple that I met along here. There were fields of foxglove.
Wow.
Just these massive fields of purple, and filled with bees. They just did. And I'm bumping along, and as I'm walking along, and I'm thinking I'm going to get stung one of these points, but that did not happen. And there's the couple that I came across on up ahead here, and they are from Bath. They were teachers. They had taught in Africa, all parts of Africa. They came back and retired in Bath, and they just like to go do walking trails. And so, fantastic couple. I walked with them for about maybe four miles or so on into Wooler.
So you're on a road now, you're not on.
Yeah, we're on pavement on into Wooler here. There's Mary and Andrew. And got into Wooler, which is a moderate-sized town, very hilly. My places are always at the top of the hill.
Yeah.
Right? So I get into town, up the hill you go, and then you get here's Bert.
Yeah.
Third floor.
Oh, gosh,
So I stayed at the old mill B&B, built
Roses.
300 years old.
Wow.
And those roses, aren't they amazing? Yeah. And run by a young couple. They were doing just a fantastic job with this place. And then the next day, I spent a little time at the Ed Geoffrin Museum, which celebrates what they call the golden era of Northumbrian history. That's that northeastern part of England, and looking back at King Oswald and maybe around the 5th, 6th, 7th centuries, they had. This is actually really a distillery. They just don't have whiskey yet. They've got a couple more years of aging before they've actually got it, so they built the museum there to start building some interest.
Yeah.
But this eventually, I imagine 10 years from now, will be mostly about the distillery. And here's St. Mary's Church here. If it's a church, I go in it, right?
Yeah, it's so pretty.
Mm-hmm. And then we're doing okay on time. This is Wooler to Finnick, another lengthy trail. But this also is, things are going to be changing. We're going to be going from the kind of mountainous areas down to more closer to the sea. But there still is the mountain climb. So there's a steep ascent up out of Wooler. And then up on a little plateau. This is the way across here. And it was windy. Oh, the gust must have been 50 miles an hour or so. And it was no longer exhilarating. It was exhausting. I was just like, oh.
Always in your face.
Always in the right, never at the back. A little cairn off to the right there. And I'm going along here, crossing bridges and rivers. There's a pillbox, which is built in World War II to fight the Germans. And these things are still just kind of there. And a little eerie. Stuck my head in there, and it was just a little area there. Well, they need some sheep on the top to kind of
Yeah.
do the mowing. And then these fields of poppy, were just massive fields of poppies. And as I'm kind of walking along them, I come along this ridge of trees, and there's this, all of a sudden, the statue of St. Cuthbert. And he's just there. And then this car comes kind of almost roaring up along this little farm road off to the side, and out pops this woman. She says, "Hi, I'm so-and-so. I have my car, and I'm a therapist." And a local young man has did this carving and a bench, and she's looking for someone who's walking the way to take a picture of next to these. Would you be willing to have a picture? I'm like, you gotta be kidding.
Yeah.
So, but she wasn't kidding. She took my picture, and then she hopped in her car and she left. So,
Wow.
yeah. Yeah, but there's St. Cuthbert blessing the way. It's got the sheep, lots and lots of the sheep. Kind of looking back down, gaining a little height again as we were heading towards St. Cuthbert's Cave. This was a big thing for me. I really was looking forward to seeing St. Cuthbert's Cave. There are two legends around this. One of them is that when he became a hermit, this is where he stayed. Probably not what happened. What probably more likely happened is that during the early Viking raids, Holy Island was one of the places that were hit early on, and they took his bones and they hid them, and they were hidden here in this cave, and then they were moved around to different places, and eventually they went down to Durham Cathedral. And so this is the inside. The big disappointment, there are a lot of carvings, lots of names carved into it everywhere, and I tried to get pictures that didn't really capture that too well, but it was like, people, come on. Oh, and I did
Field, yeah.
I did eat lunch up here, on top of here. It's a little steeper. It's harder to climb than that looks like it is, but we got up there and had a lovely lunch. And so I could also tell that in the distance is going to be the sea, right? But first I got to get past this situation over here. This sign, Bowling
You think
Field.
they get through the field?
And so I kind of stopped here and I thought, And so I kind of thought, Bill, just calm little stroll here. You're just gonna kind of walk in right in between. I don't know if that's the right idea or not. Just walk between these two, but there's a bull in the field, so you need to be kind of careful here. Turns out it was a cow, and so all was well. That was a drama, but farm castle. Now, in 2013, my family and I, it was the first time we visited England, and we went from London up to Edinburgh and visited points all in between. And along the way, I could see Holy Island out the window from the train from Newcastle up to Edinburgh. And this is a point where I was the only one that was at all interested in anything religious in the family. And I looked out that window and I thought, and I talked to Jennifer the day before. I said, "Is there a possibility we just kind of hop off? You know, just a little, just a little drive over, just to catch a cab over, and and then because this has been an icon for me forever." And and so I just thought to myself, as on that trip, someday I'm going to go. And I was very teary when I came over the rise and saw this. It meant an awful lot to me. So this is Finnick heading into this. There's again my little welcoming committee. And so Finnick was prep day. We were almost at our time. I go quickly here. Because it's a tidal island, I've got to be careful about the timing, and every now and then people make the news when they've had to send out the helicopters to rescue somebody who's gotten themselves stranded in some kind of terrible way. So that day I decided I was going to walk down to the causeway. This is the window view of sunrise in the morning at Finnick, and I thought I'm going to go look at the times, right? And here's the 18th. This is the day I'm going to go. So the good time is from 7:10 in the morning until 2:20 in the afternoon. And they say you want to finish your walk at the midpoint of this time here, right? So that if anything happens, anything wrong, you've got it's got some time, and the waters come in very quickly when they come in, and it's easy to get yourself stranded. And so I figured, okay, if I get there at 9 o'clock in the morning, an hour and a half to do the walk itself across the Pilgrim's Way, get there by 10:30, that's the midpoint, you know, so I've got this all kind of worked out, right? And here's, isn't that lovely? And there's a high rail, 100-mile-an-hour train that comes through here. So you got to kind of navigate that also. So the next day, I go back the way I came, my morning welcoming committee here, and just beautiful. Walking mostly through sheep fields, and walking with them and moving them out of the way and what have you as I kind of going along the way. It's empty right in this one spot here. Here's the high-speed rail, and so you go into this football helmet, and you tell them, you know, this is the station where I am here. I think it's Finham Hill or some such thing here. There's one of me. It'll take me a minute, or it'll take me 5 minutes, or how. You're supposed to estimate how long it's going to take you to cross over from this side to the other side, and then they tell you if it's safe to go or not.
Oh,
And then you go.
yeah.
Whoa.
So, you not play.
Yeah.
And then there's what they call dragon's teeth, and this does not do justice. There are miles and miles of these, and these are structures that are anti-tank structures that were put in place for World War II. Again, this is the character. And I know you can speak to this, Carol. The island has been attacked so many times. It's just it's something that's foreign to me. Certainly, I think to all Americans really that sense that we could be attacked any time. You know, and this is just kind of a part of just. I think the being there. So here's the causeway. This is the driving part that goes across when the tide is low, all the way over to the island here. And then you can start to see the little poles that kind of indicate where the Pilgrim's Way is. And the idea was for me to walk along here past this little river and then cut on across. And so it begins. And these poles, you can see, line the poles here. You just follow them. Just stick with the poles and you're going to be fine. Yeah, now this is the earlier part of low tide, right? And we're not at the peak of low tide, so, and I got the boots off. I had some water shoes, but I decided, nah, bare feet. So off we go with the feet here, and yeah, just kind of splash along. There's a section with lots of very thick, deep mud. There's a section with sharp little shells. so, and here is the causeway.
Yeah.
Where I was driving. And you can see, I've got the whole thing to myself. There is not a person out here. I'm thinking, where are the pilgrims? We're supposed to be on our knees, people.
Yeah.
So, but
Wow.
eventually I get passed by some younger people who are
Yeah.
goofy and funny, and it was good. It was all so good. I was absolutely in heaven doing this part of the walk. And here's the muddy part. And with each
Still
step,
barefoot?
with each step, I mean, it's like halfway up at your ankle, above your ankle. It's like all the way in, and it's and then
How did you
and-
clean that off?
well, at the very end, I had brought extra water and towels, right? So I had water bottles, and I just kind of did that and had a T-shirt with my towel. That was. So and then there are these little. These are the lifeguard stations. Okay, so if you get yourself stuck, you know, you can climb up here, and they'll come get you. You know? There's no charge for any of it, but they expect
Hopefully you're
it.
near one when
They
you find
they help a little bit of an innovation to the thing, right? And here it is. And along the way here, I'm hearing this moaning going on. And I don't know what this is. And I finally figured out that it's these seals. That's what this is.
Those are seeds.
And those are seals, yes. Yeah. My camera's not really capturing it very well. And about the point I decided these are seals is when this young couple comes by, this woman, I said, "Did you hear that moaning?" She said, "Oh, I thought that was just the moans of the dead people who never made it across." So, and then they took a picture of me there, muddy feet, my boots Yeah. Almost to the end here. This is looking back. I get to Linda's farm, and I know we're past our time, so I'm just going to kind of zip a little bit through these, because next time we'll pick up a Linda's farm and we're going to wrap things up. I promise you. But here's here's Holy Island itself, and where I stayed at the Manor House. And there'll be more of this next time. There's the Lindisfarne Castle. It's a residence now, and it's been for a little over 100 years now. But it was built by Henry back in the day.
Can you imagine?
And then I saw these willow sculptures. Aren't they beautiful?
Wow.
Evidently, they've got a dozen or more of these scattered around. I only saw those 2, but I didn't try to do the willow sculpture tour, you know. So that's where I want to leave off today. Next time, I promise you, we'll look at Lindisfarne. We're going to quickly jump down to Durham at Cathedral. I want to show you St. Stephen's in Richmond, and then we're going to talk about going forward. All that part should take about 15 minutes or so. This is 220 slides we went through today, folks, so for all of you to sit through all of that. Let's pray our way out here with John Phillips' rendering of the Lord's Prayer. Ground of all being, Mother of life, Father of the universe, your name is sacred beyond speaking. May we know your presence. May your longings be our longings, our heart and action. May there be food for the human family today and for the whole earth community. Forgive us the falseness of what we have done, as we forgive those who are untrue to us. Do not forsake us in our times of conflict, but lead us into new beginnings. For the light of life, the vitality of life are yours, now and forever. Amen. Thank you all.